Yo, 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 Big D with a Week 12 recap on the Big D podcast. Before I bring in Alice back from swimming with the Dolphins, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. See all my football content. Hopefully, the U.S. can get a win against Iran tomorrow. Otherwise, you will see a big rant coming tomorrow night. Also, check out the Big D podcast for all your Spotify and Apple listeners. So back from running with cheetahs, wallowing with penguins, and soaring with the dolphins. I wonder who that could be. Alex?
Thank you, sir. Not only was I doing all of the three, but I was doing the three at Hard Rock Stadium. Had a fantastic trip down to Miami on Sunday to watch the boys dominate in person. It's pretty much just a first half that I really got to enjoy, but it was definitely worth it. Being up 27-30 nothing at halftime. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for when you go to a live football game.
Well, that's why they play two halves, right? Because if you're down 30 nothing, you could always come back, right?
I mean, yeah, against third string quarterbacks and a somewhat beat up offensive line, but it does. Even Mike McDaniel said after the game, it's a lot of that was on him. He did have some overly aggressive play calling in that second half, having Skylar Thompson make some deep shots and some interesting play calls. But it's all right. We got a week to regroup against a tough matchup against San Francisco next week.
Yeah, so what's the difference seeing Tua, Cheetah, and Waddle in person?
It's crazy. I mean, there was one specific play. It was Tyreek Hill cutting across the middle, caught the ball, I think maybe 7-8 yards down the field, and he broke it for like a 38-yard run. And just watching that, seeing that happen in person, I mean, I looked at my buddy and I said, any other player in the NFL, and that's a 10, 15-yard gain. But just watching him accelerate across, going from practically sideline to sideline, just bursting across the field and then turning it upfield and turning a 5, 6, 7 yard catch into a 30+ yard gain. I mean, it's just crazy to see that speed in real life. I mean, it's cool. It's always cool. I love watching football on TV because obviously you've got the announcers' perspectives. You kind of have a up close and personal view of the action, but it's so much fun sitting in the stadium and really being able to see the intricacies of the NFL game in action and in person. Just being able to watch the safeties, the things that you can't really see that the camera operators don't always show, watching the safeties movement, watching the receivers breaking out of their routes. And it's so much fun. And with those weapons that we have in Miami, I mean, it's a sight that I knew I couldn't go this season without missing or without seeing.
You know what's been weird this year is that usually a bye is a good thing because you get healthy, get another week of game plan. But this year, a couple teams have struggled coming off byes. Kansas City struggled against Tennessee. The 49ers struggled against the Chargers. But yet it seemed like Miami didn't have any problems. Now, was part of it maybe the Texans, especially in the first half, was part of it maybe that Miami got to play the worst team in the league? Or is it just that Miami's particularly passing offense with Tua, Waddle, and Cheetah just can dominate almost anyone?
Yeah, I mean, even Tua leading and Mike McDaniel leading up to the game was saying that they didn't love the timing of their bye this season. I mean, obviously we were on a 4 game win streak. It's hard to kind of take a week off when you have that momentum and have that really all around football that the Dolphins have been playing the last couple of weeks. And then just to kind of have to take a week off, step away, obviously still learning, still studying, still game planning, but just not having that every day on the field, getting ready for a Sunday. But I think you're right. Obviously, playing the worst team in football is definitely a way to kind of get over those bye week shakes. But like you said, this team is just built for this offense in particular is just built for success. I mean, it really, you could have them on off for 2 weeks, and that's just 2 weeks that Mike McDaniel is going to have to be creative and find ways to beat the opponent. And that's what he's so good at, is just putting his key players in positions to where, say they're a week rusty or they're a little rusty after a week off. Mike McDaniel is so good at putting his skill players in positions to succeed and in position to make plays that I really don't think the bye week affected them that much. The Dolphins have been getting pretty banged up lately over the last couple of weeks, so I think the bye was nice to really be able to kind of, ice those sore muscles and really just have that week to recover. Obviously, a couple injuries went down yesterday, and I said it in the second quarter. Once this game was running away from us, I looked at my friend and I said, the only thing I want to see out of this game is no injuries. And of course, I probably jinxed it, but hopefully Teron Armstead is back before sooner than later. I know Rappaport said, or Schefter, one of them said it wasn't as serious as some people were hoping for, or not hoping for, I'm sorry, as serious as some people were fearing. I know Jeff Wilson went out in the game, but he was able to return. So as long as we can stay as healthy as possible, I think we'll be okay.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people wonder like whether or not Miami would pull Tua because you got up so big, and it's like, well, the last thing Miami needs is somebody not named Tua under center.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone in our section around us was saying, I mean, you got to pull Tua. Why is he still in the game? Once Teron Armstead left that game, the offensive line really turned to shambles, which the Dolphins had played without Teron Armstead previous in the season, and they didn't look as bad. But I think just the fact of having to adjust in the middle of a game, losing him, it kind of threw things off for the offensive line. And then Tua took 3 sacks almost back to back to back. And I think after those sacks, one of them, he went down. It looked kind of ugly, which fortunately he was able to get up and he was fine. But his body bended in a weird way. So I think after that, Coach McDaniel realized, I think a 30-point cushion. I think even though we're still in the third quarter, we should be able to see this game out. And Skylar Thompson really did not look good yesterday. Unfortunately, he was 1 of 5. I mean, just not the B team was not really doing its best work in that late third, fourth quarter. But when you go up 30-0 at halftime, it's you're gonna need something special to come back, and the Texans don't have anything special in them, unfortunately for them.
I've got a well now as the calendar is getting ready to flip into December, Miami begins a very difficult 3-game stretch at San Francisco, at LA, at Buffalo. What record would you like to see the Dolphins? I mean, obviously you want Dolphins winning every game, but realistically, what would be the expectation of this 3-game stretch? Could Miami go 0-3, 1-2, 2-1, or heck, win them all?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna throw the 4th game in there too, the Packers game on Christmas, just because I know it's gonna add an extra win there. I remember when that season, when our schedule dropped at the beginning of the year, you see, oh God, we got to play Aaron Rodgers on a holiday in prime time. Like you're already marking that one up as an L, and then all of a sudden, as the season starts and it goes on and it goes on and goes on, you're like, wait a second, it went from being scared of the Packers on Christmas to being like, okay, maybe we can win this game, to now being, I'd be surprised if the Dolphins lose that game. So I know you asked for the next 3 games. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that Packers game. But as far as the next 3, this 49ers one's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a great football game. And everyone I've been talking to, and it's really just a reality of this situation. We're going to learn a lot about who the Miami Dolphins are over these next 3 weeks. Obviously, and I've been saying it for the majority of the season, really since that Buffalo and Baltimore game, I believe the Miami Dolphins can beat any team in the NFL. I don't think that there's a team in the league that the Dolphins are incapable of beating. You just have to be able to have that defense show up. Obviously, you know what you have in the offense, and you can expect greatness from that offense. The defense has been somewhat inconsistent, but they've been looking better. Jalen Phillips is stepping up. Obviously, Emmanuel Ogbah's out for the year, but we bring in Bradley Chubb. Defense was getting turnovers, scoring touchdowns yesterday. Obviously, again, it's the Houston Texans, but just being able for them to get that confidence, it's going to be huge going into these 3 games. We completely shut down Dameon Pierce, who's the only player I was concerned about on that Texans offense yesterday. So, you've got the confidence of being able to stop a really solid running back. Now, obviously, you have to go up against Christian McCaffrey. I think realistically, I think the Dolphins are a top team in the NFL. I think they are a Super Bowl contender. I would say I expect 2-1 out of these next 3 games. I mean, I even think like I said, I think the Dolphins can beat any team in the NFL. I think they very well could go 3-0 over these next 3 games. If I had to be somewhat more realistic, I would probably say we drop one of them and probably end 2-1. I'm not too scared about the Chargers. We always beat the Chargers. We always play them well, especially when we play them in LA. I think Justin Herbert, he finally was able to finish a game-winning drive this week. I know Chargers fans are happy about that, but I just see it as almost an anomaly because from what we've seen in close games with Justin Herbert, it seems like an interception is a lot more likely than a touchdown. And when you're throwing against Javon Holland and Xavier Howard, you got to be careful where you put that ball. So, I'm confident in the Chargers game. And then the 49ers and the Bills, I think we win one of those games. People are telling me I'm crazy that the Miami Dolphins can beat the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. You just told me I was. But at the end of the day, man, the Bills are on a downward slope. I mean, yes, they won this week, but they do not look like the world beater Buffalo Bills that we've been used to seeing. Cold weather Tua, it's going to be a test. It's going to be a question, but he's got all the confidence in the world right now. I really think 2-1 is really what I'm expecting from these next 3 games. You're speechless on that level of commentary, Don. I mean, the 49ers, yes, Christian McCaffrey's talented. Yes,
Alex, I'm not speechless on your Dolphins. I'm speechless in our next topic.
All right, there you go. We've talked about enough about my team. I was wondering if you're going to give me any feedback there, but it's all right. We're going to move on to a very fantastic game. We talked about my team. Let's talk about your team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Boy, how about them Baltimore Ravens when it comes to blowing fourth quarter leads? I mean, John Harbaugh's got to be shaking his head after what went down yesterday. But, you got to give credit to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that fourth quarter, that 2-minute drill, driving the Jaguars down the field, throwing the touchdown pass and throwing the consecutive 2-point conversion, going for the win. We're not looking for overtime. We're going to win this thing right out, and they sure did it. I mean, initial thoughts. I mean, you had to have been elated after, losing to the Houston Texans this season. You come back and you take one from John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, and the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, first thoughts when you see that 2-point conversion succeed.
Be honest, when Trevor, I mean my instant thought was, A, the Jaguars made the only pick they could have getting Trevor Lawrence. B, Trevor Lawrence arrived because every quarterback gets his shining moment in that, especially early in a career. Yesterday was Trevor Lawrence. B, I knew Doug Peterson was going to go for 2 because the Eagles went for 2 more than anybody with him at the helm. And see, it's not just that the Jags won yesterday, but how the Jags won. The Jaguars could have won 17-13, running the ball and playing good defense. The Jaguars won the game with Trevor Lawrence making big plays. I mean, that 3rd and 20, getting where the Jaguars get a fourth down conversion, then hitting Curl, hitting Zay Jones, and then best of all, hitting Marvin Jones Jr. with one of the craziest catches I've seen in a long time. How he even got his shit in bounds is beyond me.
And that's something I wanted to talk about too as well, because lately when you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're thinking about Travis Etienne. I mean, they traded James Robinson, and since then Etienne has been a star for the Jaguars. And you got to think, I mean, him going out after 2 carries, getting hurt, and they said after the game that Etienne could have came back, he just didn't want to risk it. He wanted to play it safe, and obviously the Jaguars didn't need it. And that's and exactly what you said. It's such a statement game. You're asking you when you think about when you talk about college football and you're talking about the Heisman race, you're always looking for that Heisman moment. You're always looking for that moment where you say, this guy has it, and this guy is who we decide is the best college football quarterback. Translating that to the NFL, you got a young quarterback who struggled last season. Obviously, his head coach situation wasn't very ideal, but even this season, he's had some struggles. But to be able to see him go out, have the best player on their team get injured almost immediately, and to go on and throw 29 of 37 passes, 321 yards over the air with 3 touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown with less than 30 seconds on the clock. I mean, that is a statement game from Trevor Lawrence, and it's something that I'm sure as you as a Jaguars fan have to be elated. And obviously, it seems like Travis Etienne is going to be okay, which is great news for the Jaguars. And if you can keep Trevor Lawrence playing like that, like he did yesterday, and have Travis Etienne running the rock, I mean, it's a bright future for the Jaguars as long as all the pieces, stay healthy and really just come together. But I have to ask, because I was watching this game, I was watching it on my phone as I was walking out of Hard Rock Stadium, and all I know is I see Justin Tucker walking up to kick a 67-yard field goal. And I have to know, Dylan, what was going through your mind when that football left his cleat?
I was thinking, oh, I'm not going to say what followed, but he did it again.
Yep. I thought it was good. I thought it was going in.
To be honest, I promise. I promise. I thought that was going that would have cleared the uprights, and I was thinking, we found the Jaguars can't win a one-score game anyway. And Justin Tuck was on the other side. I'm like, this one's going to be good, and I'm like, this game's over. This game's over. We have no chance of winning.
And the crazy thing too is, like, with Justin Tucker, I mean, the NFL record for field goal was 63 yards for such a long time. And then not too long ago, it got broken for 64. And then, Justin Tucker obviously hits the 66-yarder. And as he's walking up to kick this, I'm like, the only way he misses this field goal is if he misses it left or right. I was like, I didn't think for a second he would kick that ball short. I know there wasn't very much wind. The announcers were saying it wasn't very windy, and the record was he had some. It was either indoors or had some wind helping him or something on the 66-yarder. But in my mind, Justin Tucker can hit from 70. He can hit from 72. Like, I feel like there's just no distance that's too long for him. So I was really just thinking he's got to get this through the uprights. Accuracy wise, not necessarily distance wise. So I was surprised to see it come up short, but you guys deserve it. It's and honestly, I'm pretty familiar as well with beating the Baltimore Ravens on a crazy fourth quarter. So we got something in common there.
Okay, so thinking about what happened to Great Northwest, and Josh Jacobs was in Fuego yesterday. He didn't have 100 total yards. He didn't have 200 yards, but 303 total yards, 2 touchdowns, including an 86-yarder. Well, he's still running like Bo Jackson in the Kingdom.
Yeah,
against the Seahawks. But the Raiders didn't give him a 5th-year option before the season, so he can be a free agent. If you are the Raiders, quickly answer this one. Are you giving Josh Jacobs a mega fat contract?
I'm going to be quick. I'm just going to say an answer that I think might surprise a lot of people. No, I'm not, because it's the NFL in 2022, and I just don't believe you can pay running backs anymore. He's 24 years old. He's young, but Josh Jacobs has already broken his career longest rushing yards in a season, and we're in week 11. He is having a career year. He's already had a career year, and he's still got 6 games to play. I just don't believe. I think that this was something that, especially with how bad the Raiders have been this season, obviously they have the talent and it's not working. They drafted Zamir White last season, and I think he's a promising back. I just think the Raiders need help. They're paying Devontae Adams. They're going to pay Derek Carr. I just don't think you really can drop that money on a running back in 2022 anymore. I'm going to keep it at that to keep it quick, but I think it's a surprising answer.
I would not pay Josh Jacobs. I've never drafted Josh Jacobs. I did I have no idea how many best ball teams I did. Didn't draft them in any. Didn't draft in fantasy football. Yeah, do I regret it? Perhaps, but I'm not paying Josh Jacobs. Not with Samir White. You win with cheap running backs. You don't win with $15-20 million running backs. Who's the best running back for the Dallas Cowboys now? Tony Pollard or Zeke Elliott?
Tony Pollard, easily.
Thank you. Look at recent Super Bowl champs. Who Who was Kansas City's running back when they won the Super Bowl in Miami? I don't remember. Who was the LA Rams running back when they won the Super Bowl last year? I don't remember.
I mean, I remember, but they're no one notable. I mean, I'm pretty sure Clyde Edwards-Helaire was running for the Chiefs, and I think that was his rookie year, if I believe.
I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was Damian Williams. Maybe
It could have been, actually, it might have been Damian Williams. I mean, obviously Joe Mixon brought helped the Bengals, but that was all Joe Burrow, and I mean, it wasn't all Joe Burrow, T Higgins, and Jamar Chase, but you know, Joe Mixon's not the focal point of that offense. Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, I mean, they weren't the ones taking the Rams to the Super Bowl. You're 100% right. You win with cheap running backs. You pay your quarterbacks, you pay your receivers, and it's just not a position you can splurge on anymore. But let me see. All right. Let's move on to another subject. Josh Jacobs, as you and I both know, did not get a lot of respect going into the NFL season this season. I think it's safe to say he's earned a lot of people's respect throughout the year. Obviously, not ours enough to give him a big contract, but either way, I'm sure I can speak for both of us in saying that we're impressed with the season Josh Jacobs having this year. I want to know, Dylan, who is a player who is having a year that you think deserves more respect from fans, from media, from anything?
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint, and we just mentioned him. His name is Joe Burrow.
There you go.
Good. Everybody mentioned, in terms of top quarterbacks in the NFL, everybody mentions Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. Well, you know what? There's 3 guys on that list, and the third guy's in Cincinnati, Ohio. What if I told you? Let me see. How about these stats for Joe Burrow this year? 68% completion percentage, 23 touchdowns, 8 picks. Not bad. He's got fewer picks than Josh Allen. He's got a better completion percentage than Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes, fewer interceptions than Allen. Oh, and by the way, did Jamal Chase play yesterday? I didn't see Chase playing yesterday. Joe Burrow went on the road without his 2 best offensive players and beat a dang good, well-coached Titan team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Joe Burrow never gets respect. They're like Justin Herbert, Tua, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes. Wait, Joe Burrow was 2 minutes away from winning the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Hello, he's an MVP. He should have won the MVP last year, but the voters are idiots and gave it to somebody in Green Bay. Joe Burrow outplayed Pat Mahomes second half of that AFC Championship game, and yes, they went on the road and beat a really good, maybe not an overly talented, but a still really good Titan defense.
Yeah, no, I think Joe's a good shout. You mentioned too. I don't know if Joe Burrow got a lot of respect last season for taking the Bengals to the Super Bowl. It's their first playoff win in 31 years, and then not only did they they got all the way up to the Super Bowl. So I do think that Joe Burrow has earned a lot of respect. I think he lost a little bit of it because he had a really rough start to the season. I mean,
he came off a freaking appendectomy,
right? But okay, I'm gonna lead into my answer. I'm not gonna talk about Tua as much as I want to because I think Tua is the most disrespected player in the NFL, and I think Tua is much more disrespected than Joe Burrow is. But I'm gonna move on to an unbiased alternate choice. You're talking about stat lines. I want to give you some stat lines. How about 5 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks? Add on 2, 4, 6 more over the rest of the course of the season as his team's second running back. Jamal Williams is the best running back on the Detroit Lions. And it's unbelievable because so many people, myself included, had DeAndre Swift as a potential #1 overall running back in fantasy football this season. Not a #1 draft pick, but a guy who had the potential to be the #1 running back in fantasy football this year. And the Detroit Lions, obviously, yes, DeAndre Swift's been hurt. He hasn't played the entire season, and he's really just been a shell of himself. But the Detroit Lions trust Jamal Williams. I mean, you don't score 3 touchdowns in one game. You don't have multiple 2-touchdown games without being the trusted running back. And like, obviously, there's goal line backs. Every team has their goal line backs, but you still have to be able to finish the play. You have to be able to get the job done. And Jamal Williams has been such an underrated running back his entire career. I mean, when he was in Green Bay, he was my favorite. Jamal Williams has been my favorite player to draft in fantasy football for his entire career, because even when he was in Green Bay and Aaron Jones was the #1 guy, Jamal Williams is still producing. Now that he's in Detroit, DeAndre Swift's the #1 guy, and he's still producing. It's just, I mean, if you look at DeAndre Swift's stats this season, even from the games he played, I mean, you look at week 12, he had 5 carries for 19 yards. Week before, 5 carries, 20 yards. Week before, 6 carries, 6 yards. I mean, it's unbelievable how talented Jamal Williams is, how under the radar Jamal Williams is. And the fact that I guess it's not really fair to call him Detroit's #2 running back. I mean, at the beginning of the year, and maybe even on the depth chart, he is, and he was, but man, Jamal Williams is the best running back not in the NFL, but in the Detroit Lions backfield. And I think his name gets under the radar and kind of swept under the carpet just because, he scores those goal line touchdowns and everything, but the guy knows how to play football. And I don't think he gets talked about enough.
We'll say this: I drafted Jamal Williams a fair few times in best ball and worked out all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, it's been a few weeks, but I figure Alex has got something to say about 2 you might have heard of quarterbacks having not just bad years, but wretched years. So, Alex, the floor is yours.
All right. So today for our rant, we'd like you so graciously introduced. I got to talk about 2 quarterbacks, and I'm even going to slip in a third one, because there are really 3 quarterbacks who have been playing this season who have had high expectations throughout their career and have done nothing this season. Quarterback #1 is the quarterback who everyone loves to hate this season. Let's ride Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a botched play call away from being a Super Bowl champion against the New England Patriots. Russell Wilson had a fantastic career in Seattle, and really was one of the most likable and really top tier quarterbacks in the NFL. This season with the Denver Broncos, it's just a nightmare. I do not understand. Is Russell Wilson a bad quarterback? It's gotten to the point, and I know the coaching over there is terrible. I know they've had their injury problems, but that roster is too good to be as bad as that team is. And it only makes me wonder. I mean, how are they not doing better? Obviously, losing Javonte Williams was massive, because obviously you have to be able to run the ball to set up the pass. It's such a crucial thing in the NFL to be able to keep defenses honest so that they can't just drop everyone back in coverage. When you have an effective run game, it opens up your passing game so much. So losing Javonte Williams was a gigantic hit for that Denver Broncos team. But in my mind, if you're one of those elite top quarterbacks, it doesn't matter. Russell Wilson should be taking these Denver Broncos to a winning record, to a playoff run. And the fact that he is not, it's disappointing to me, because I've always loved Russell Wilson. I've always thought he was a fantastic quarterback. The Broncos defensive players were screaming at him on the sidelines yesterday. It is just a mess in Denver, and it blows and unfortunately, as I've said, it just makes me ask, is Russell Wilson, has he fallen off? Is his career over? Is it just a bad season? I don't know the answer to those questions, but all I know is watching Russell Wilson play football for the Denver Broncos right now is not a pretty sight. The next quarterback I want to talk about, everyone knows it, Aaron Rodgers. What is going on in Green Bay this season? Obviously, things have started progressing in a somewhat more upward direction. Obviously, the injury to his thumb, he had to leave the game, and Jordan Love came in and looked like a superstar last night. But again, and I have a perfect thing to back this up, but these elite quarterbacks, yes, you lose Devontae Adams, but you have your Aaron Rodgers. You're the MVP last season. We know how they've never I mean, I just don't understand watching the Green Bay Packers this season. I've talked about it on this podcast throughout the entire season. I don't understand why they're not using Aaron Jones. I don't understand why they're not using AJ Dillon. They have talented players on this roster, and it just does not seem like they can put the pieces together. Finally, Christian Watson has stepped up, and Christian Watson looks like, I mean, almost an offensive rookie of the year candidate. I mean, it's a tough race this year for that offensive rookie of the year position. But Christian Watson has taken Green Bay by storm. I mean, that touchdown he had off that Jordan Love pass yesterday was, I mean, just he looked like Tyreek Hill outsprinting the rest of the defense. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you're doing too many State Farm commercials. I don't know if your love of the game. I mean, you were thinking about retiring last season, and maybe that's the only thing in your mind this season. But if you want to retire, buddy, just retire, because it's not fun watching you play football this season. Finally, very quickly, third quarterback I want to talk about, Matthew Stafford, man. Oh my goodness. The Los Angeles Rams as a whole have been a complete dumpster fire. They were bad before Cooper Kupp got hurt, and now that Cooper Kupp got hurt, it's just there's no hope for the Rams. The fact that the LA Rams were Super Bowl champions last season, and we are in week 11 and their season is over, is just disgusting to me. You have an incredible head coach who can apparently take a hit. If you saw that hit that Sean McVay took from his own player with his shoulder pad, but
so can Nick Saban.
Yeah, literally. But it's just, I mean, Matthew Stafford, their run game hasn't done anything. Cooper Kupp, it seems like the only game plan that the LA Rams had this season was to throw the ball to Cooper Kupp. And I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp's a great receiver, but you have to be able to do something more than that. Allen Robinson should be getting more work. Even Ben Skronik is a talented player, and I think I saw 90% of Matthew Stafford's pass attempts have gone to a white receiver this season, which is just a ridiculous stat in the first place. But it's just, I cannot believe that the defending Super Bowl champions are eliminated from anything positive after 11 weeks of the NFL season. And the last thing I have to say to sum all of this up is going back to get Aaron Rodgers and going back to Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers lost Devontae Adams. It sucks. Russell Wilson lost DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Obviously, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are talented receivers, but he had that connection. Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, and it sure hasn't. Yes, Patrick Mahomes also has Travis Kelce, but Tyreek Hill has proven to be the most dominant wide receiver in the NFL, because I mean, the people were saying he was going to drop off the face of the earth catching passes from Tua. He's 1A or 1B best receiver in the NFL this season. Patrick Mahomes looks like a superstar. It was a trade that worked out for both teams, and I don't see Patrick Mahomes with a losing record. I don't see Patrick Mahomes losing football games and not being himself because he lost Tyreek Hill. I don't want the excuse from Packers fans that they lost Devontae Adams. They have a talented roster, and just Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, and Russell Wilson. What are you doing, guys? I mean, at this point, we've got so many. What's that?
Maybe doing too many commercials.
Maybe too many commercials, and it's not a good look for them. I mean, even Tom Brady has had a decent year, but he hasn't necessarily been the Tom Brady that we know. And the unfortunate thing for these quarterbacks is there are so many young quarterbacks in the NFL that the quarterback position is a group of youth and a group of talent and a group of the future. And unfortunately, these guys, the end is near, and it's not looking good for them.
Oh, by the way, what's news for the Rams and Broncos this year? They don't even get their first round picks.
Exactly.
That's spicy. I don't know what else to say.
I'm glad my team doesn't have that quarterback situation. I'll just say that much.
Or my team.
There you go.
So thanks for hopping on, Alex. We wish you Dolphins well. Hopefully Mike McDaniel can win in California, New York, Florida, Massachusetts, wherever the Dolphins play.
Yeah, you know, we got a 3-game road streak, but I'm excited to see how we handle it. Thank you for having me on, Dylan. It's been a pleasure as always. And let's go USA tomorrow, baby. I believe.